I just want to take a moment to thank CAST, Community Action of Southold Town. It's a not-so-small organization in my little town that really reaches out and helps others, and their culinary program was just an honor to be a part of. It really means a lot to me that I might potentially help these kids choose their career path. So do what you can to help those in your community.
Each one of you will be getting a piece of chicken, and you're going to be seasoning it. I'm going to taste that chicken, and whoever has what I feel is a very tasty piece of grilled chicken will get a $100 gift certificate to my restaurant. Couple things that a lot of people make mistakes with when it comes to cooking in the kitchen, and I'm here to kind of address these things and give you a little guidance today. I'm here to show you guys how to allow those creative juices to flow. And there's a couple of rules that you need to follow, a couple things that are going to keep you from maximizing your ability to cook in the kitchen, and I'm here to address those things. And when it comes specifically to seasoning, one of the biggest problems, one of the things that people make a mistake with is they put too much. Too much seasoning or too many different seasonings. You got to be a little bit more selective about the seasoning that you're going to put on your chicken. And in order to do that, you got to have a little basic understanding of the spices that you're putting on the chicken. You got to kind of know what they're going to taste like in advance, because the flavor is going to change once that chicken gets cooked. Some spices taste very different when you have them uncooked. Some taste different when you have them cooked. Some spices taste different when they're raw. Some spices taste different when they're dehydrated. So there's a lot more flavor in a drier herb. They're more concentrated. Well, it makes sense because there's no moisture in them. So you have to familiarize yourself with the seasonings and also the dish that you're adding the seasonings to. The other problem that people have is they don't season enough. They put too little, or there's not enough salt, and something's missing. So you got to be balanced. That's the art. Know the spices, and you understand what's going to happen to them when they cook. Create what's an unforgettable dish. That's the point. So here's an example, right? If I give you a piece of chicken, and we have a pot of boiling water, you throw the chicken in the boiling water, and I put a blindfold on you, you should know that that's chicken, right? You're not going to say, oh, I think it's fish. If I take that same piece of chicken and I grill it, you should also know that that's chicken, right? But it's not going to taste the same as the boiled chicken. It shouldn't. It should be very different, right? That's the major flavor. Now, when you boil that chicken, it's going to have a minor flavor, right? A lot of it's going to get washed away into the broth. When you sear that chicken, it's going to have a minor flavor. It's going to taste different than boiled, right? Those are the minor flavors that come out as you prepare that dish. Now, the spices are going to enhance either the major flavor or the minor flavor or both. So you got to understand what's going to happen in that process, because otherwise you're not going to be able to put out a dish that's going to be the way you want it. It's like picking up an instrument and playing. You know, there's techniques that you have to know, and there's art and creativity that you kind of gain along the way. And a lot of that leads me to the next point, is a lot of people fail at this because they don't experiment. Now, what do I mean by experiment? If you came to my restaurant and I go to you, Chef John, what are you preparing for me today? And you go, I don't know. Like, well, what's the protein? Chicken. What are you going to make? Grilled chicken. Okay, great. You better have played around with that recipe before you start cooking it for me to serve to my customers, right? You have to experiment outside of the kitchen that belongs to the restaurant on your own free time. And you have to take meticulous notes. A lot of chefs don't do that. Maybe some chefs are really good at it. I write down everything. I weigh everything to the gram. If I'm going to put a pound of chicken, I will weigh my spices. Well, it's not always, because sometimes you have to use measuring spoons because spices are too light to actually measure, right? Because if you're using 1 gram of a spice, it could theoretically be a teaspoon, right? So, but I keep everything written down, and there's a big reason for that. If you are not consistent in the restaurant industry, as a restaurant owner, to me, you are fired. Because when you come to a restaurant and someone has your amazing grilled chicken dish, and the grilled chicken doesn't taste the same, they come back. They won't come back a third time. You gotta be consistent. And that's why it's important for you today, because you may come out with the best chicken recipe you've ever had in your life. You gotta write down what you do so that you know how to do it again. And that's part of the experimentation process. And what can stop you from creating an awesome dish? You're not passionate about it. I see that all the time. People just walk through the motions. Okay, prepare Chef John's chicken dish, and they go, okay, and sometimes they're looking at their phone going, you know. You gotta be passionate about it. You gotta love what you're doing. If you're gonna be because first of all, let me tell you something, when you're in the restaurant industry, you're married to it. Whether you own the restaurant or not, you're gonna be there for a very big part of your life. Restaurant hours are not office hours, usually. Usually restaurant hours are 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Not always, but if you own a restaurant, my hours are about 90 hours a week. That's my hours. It's tough. So if you don't love it, it's gonna show in your meal. If it shows in your meal that you don't love it, those customers aren't gonna come back. And when you're passionate, you're consistent. Because you wanna make sure, I'm not talking about having an ulcer because you're so stressed out that the food's not gonna be good. I'm talking about you love what you do and it shines through in your food all the time. That's the key. So what is the biggest obstacle that stops passion from happening, consistency from happening, experimentation from happening? Somewhere along the lines, a lie is fed to you, whether you feed it to yourself or someone told you that you can't. Maybe you watch one of these 3-star Michelin chefs come out and they put out this dish and you're like, oh my God, how did he come up with that? I could never do that. You can. As a matter of fact, it's very, very, very rare that you see something unique now in the kitchen. It does happen. Sure, they'll come up with a cooking technique or they'll come up with a flavor profile or a special way of cooking something. But for the most part, we've been cooking the same food for hundreds, if not thousands of years. We just keep refining it. So if you see someone do something that you like, don't be intimidated by it. Even reach out to that person. Always ask a chef to give you some advice, some direction. Because then you can. You may not be able to do it right now, but eventually you will be able to do it. And lastly, sometimes when you're good at what you do, you don't pay attention to what's happening around you. You think you got it under control, so you're not looking to expand your horizons. You're not watching what other people are doing. That is very dangerous in the culinary world, because if you don't continuously evolve, there's a very good chance that people are going to move on to a different restaurant. I've been in business since 1976. Now here's the interesting thing. We haven't changed our recipes. We have the same food. That's 45 years. But I add food to my menu every year. I change the plating almost every year. We change the tables. There's a lot of things that we do because I have to compete with all the new restaurants that are moving into the area. And those restaurants usually don't last. They don't have the staying power. Sometimes they do. 50% of them don't. That's a statistic. So what you need to do is to pay attention. Don't ever think because you got a James Beard nomination or you're such an awesome chef and you got a great write-up in the New York Times that you can't keep evolving. It's all trickles down to passion, experimentation, and having fun in the kitchen. So today, the chicken that's going to come out in front of you, make it your own. If I had any one of these chickens at a restaurant, I'd be happy. Now I just got to make my final decision here. Give yourself a round of applause. I'm really impressed with the way you guys balanced everything out. I mean, there's a lot of character here. These are all, honestly, maybe small differences in quality. Like I would say, it's a very difficult decision for me, being candid with you. But I'm gonna give it to Miguel. I think Miguel's was really unique. Miguel, come by the restaurant, ask for me. There's a $100 gift card. Thank you. Use it anytime. Thank you. Congratulations, buddy.
Added bonus to that list, use organic ingredients. Number one, it's healthier for you. Number two, they naturally make the food taste better. You may say to me, you know, George, organic ingredients are pretty expensive. There's ways of using organic ingredients and keeping the cost down. For example, you may have a local farmer in your community who isn't certified organic but chooses not to use non-organic pesticides and fertilizers because he cares about the product that he's putting out. They can't always afford to be certified organic. So they may already be creating produce and raising animals that are naturally organic. So check with them and speak to them first. Secondly, there's a lot of sales online, Vitacost, Amazon. The food is inexpensive. And also in the supermarket, if people aren't buying organic products, sometimes they drop the price so that they can be more competitive with non-organic products. Check out your local supermarkets or local farm stands, most importantly. And finally, you got club warehouses who sell a lot of this stuff in bulk. I want to thank you so much for watching. Always do what you can to help the people in your local community, and help me out by leaving a comment down below, hitting that like button, and subscribing. Thank you.